So what we do is we offer targeted, tailored interventions to these children to help them realise their full potential and flourish.
Get Radio Breakfast with Rich Smith.
All this week we've been chatting to small charities. It's been Small Charities Week. We've been giving a little bit of a platform and shining a light on some amazing and wonderful charities. And that is no less as to what we're doing right now. We're joined by Felix Tasker, Funding and Research Coordinator at Children Heard and Seen. Good morning, Felix.
Morning, Rich. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no, absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I have to say, we're sort of coming to the back end of Small Charities Week, and one of the last people we're speaking to is you. And I have to say, I've just so enjoyed finding out more about brilliant charities, some of which I heard of, some of which I haven't heard of, and finding out incredible stuff that they're doing across the county. And you are no different. So Felix, tell us a little bit more about Children Heard and Seen, where you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So we're Children Heard and Seen, and we support children with a parent in prison. We're Oxfordshire based and provide face-to-face support to children and their families across the Thames Valley area, but also online support to children across the rest of the country. And having a parent in prison it's a recognised adverse childhood experience. And these children are at much greater risk of mental health problems such as depression and anxiety, a failure to achieve at school, and also a much higher likelihood of going on to offend themselves. And there's quite an incredible statistic that 65% of boys with a parent in prison will go on to offend. Now, we know that this isn't a predetermined outcome. And of the 860 children that we have supported as a charity since inception, which was in 2014, only 4 have gone on to offend. So that's a rate of 0.5%. So what we do is we offer targeted, tailored interventions to these children to help them realise their full potential and flourish.
An amazing thing, and something to sort of add on, actually, just from my personal experience about this week. So many of these charities are there to support children, but children who are thrown into these situations, not their choice. The choice that this has been sort of put on them by extenuating circumstances, and when that's the case, having that kind of backup, having that backstop, having that help that you provide, it is so vitally important, just for the stats and statistics that you've mentioned.
Yeah, and it's not complicated, really. It's simple, offering these children an opportunity to realise they're not alone, and realise, these children are completely innocent, right? They are sometimes the victims, sometimes the secondary victims of their parents' offence. And it's just so they can come together, and we offer one-to-one support, which is to work through their parents' offence and explain in sort of an age-appropriate way what has been done. Because often these children are lied to. They're told, dad's gone to work, or, dad's been naughty, you can't see him for 8 years. And it's even very young, when you're being lied to as a child. So we have crib sheets, and our workers explain the nature of the offence in a suitable way, depending on the offence, depending on the age of the child. And then we also have group work, which is quite a nice way for children and families to come together and just reduce those feelings of stigma and shame which are associated with having a parent in prison. And often it's not something that they talk about outside of the family home because of fear of bullying, fear of shame, fear of stigma, and all that.
It's so lovely to sort of grouping everyone together, because we're sort of on a Friday and sort of speaking to so many incredible charities. It's been amazing to know that there are these specific ones for specific incidents as well, because situations are like this with parents going to prison, unfortunately, is a reality, hence why you're there. But it's quite a unique thing as well. It's a very specialized way of dealing with something like this.
Yeah, and there's a few myths about having a parent in prison. The reason we exist is because there is a complete gap in statutory services. And actually, in this country, we know more about the number of Labradors than the number of children with a parent in prison. And there's an assumption that you would think that social services immediately get involved, or there would be some form of government involvement as soon as someone goes to prison. That is simply not the case. We don't know who or where these children are. There's an estimate that 312,000 children are living in this country with a parent in prison, but that is literally just an estimate. We don't know. We've had cases as an organisation where a parent has gone to prison and children have been living completely on their own, getting up and going to school, just pretending everything's okay, pretending there's a parent in the house, and then, for months, just on their own, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, and then eventually sort of gas and electric runs out, and then we find out about it. But we've not been alerted to these children through statutory services. It's by chance, and there could be many, many more out there.
Yeah, I shouldn't be, and everyone listening this morning shouldn't be shocked, but will be. And that's the most heartbreaking thing I think about everything that sort of charities do. It's the help from the other end, isn't it? If you knew about these children, you're there to help. You can give exactly the right help. It's when there's that failing of not knowing who you need to help and not knowing where the help can be given. That's the shocking thing, isn't it? That's the failings in all this.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Rich. It is shocking in 2023 that there are children living completely on their own, and that this is just an issue that is neglected by those in power. But also, it's not really talked about in media, in discourse. When you hear about crime on the news or in the paper, you hear about the criminal and you hear about the victim, but you never really hear much about the victim's family, who are often secondary victims in all this, especially if it's not the victim's family, the offender's family, and especially if it's if it's an offence which carries a high lot of stigma. We've had families having to move hundreds of miles away, change their names. It's incredibly difficult, but there's not much attention paid to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this, dare I say, this is the exact reason why we're speaking to you now. It's the exact reason why we're speaking to so many wonderful small charities that do all this, because one of the big things that I know, even chatting to Mike a little bit earlier on from Oxford Head Injury Services, it's awareness. Having that awareness that everything is happening, that things are issues, that things are going on, that's almost the first step. And then, we've already got this wonderful charity in place to help everything. It's logic, isn't it, really, at the end of the day? But yeah, there we go. Every charity I've spoken to, I've kind of demanded, I've not asked, I've demanded, what do you need? What can help with you?
Well, there's two things really. But firstly, on the topic of raising awareness, simply, and this is an easy one for everyone listening, simply have those conversations to raise awareness. Before I started this role, many professionals that I talk to, police officers, teachers, they've got no idea. They don't think about the children. So simply have those conversations with your friends, with your family. I urge everyone listening just to ask today, what happens to children when their parent is sent to prison? Ask people, I guarantee they won't have thought about it before, and they'll say, I don't know, I assume someone gets involved. That's the assumption. This just isn't the case. So just have those conversations, raise awareness, because the more people that talk about it, the more it becomes an issue that cannot be ignored. And secondly, we would love anyone interested in fundraising to get in touch, because we don't receive any government funding. So we rely completely on grants, donations, fundraising to be able to offer this support. And, we're a small charity. Even small amounts of money make a huge difference to supporting these children. For example, off the top of my head, for example, £60, we can hold a campfire social for 10 families to come together. And as I said earlier, just realise they're not alone, talk about their shared experience as a safe environment, and really reduce that social isolation often associated with having a parent in prison.
No, brilliant. Thanks for sort of painting that picture of where money goes and what have you. Thanks for that, Felix. If people are listening to this and want to find out a little bit more information, I mean, you've been fantastic in giving a lot of information. If people want to find out a little bit more about you and what happens, where can we go, Felix?
Yeah, so childrenheardandseen.co.uk is our website. All our info's on there. Or you can follow us on social media, which is Children Heard and Seen on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. If you are interested in fundraising or getting involved, or you just have any questions, be info at childrenheardandseen.co.uk. So info at childrenheardandseen.co.uk. Not children seen and heard. We sometimes get that. Children heard and seen.
No, brilliant stuff, Felix. It's been a real sort of eye-opener to sort of speak to you this morning, as it has been for all of the charities that we had on. I really appreciate your time and coming on the show today.
Oh, thanks so much. Cheers, Rich, for having us on. Cheers.
Brilliant stuff. I just to reiterate, thoroughly enjoyed this Small Charities Week, and I hope that we've been able to help a few charities, and also everyone listening as well, that you've kind of opened your ears and eyes to some of the fantastic work that's happening on your doorstep, literally in your village, in your town, in your city. It's been really, really amazing to chat to so many wonderful people. It was Felix Tasker, the funding and research coordinator at Children Heard and Seen.